All right, welcome back everybody from the break. Next on the agenda, we have Shay Howlin from West. She is a statistician with the program support team, and she has been instrumental in getting the adaptive management database up and running. So take it away, Shay.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Looks like a nice turnout here. It's good to virtually see everybody. Again, as Debbie said, I'm Shay. I'm a statistician or even a data scientist these days at West, and I'm working with our team to design the adaptive management database. So today, I plan to describe the database and really try to put it in context and also offer a little more clarity or insight into how it can function for the program. So the adaptive management database is being designed to enable the program to provide timely and relevant recommendations based on robust evidence using the information that continues to be amassed as the program participants implement research and management actions, and how the understanding of interactions in the system is refined. So essentially adaptive management. So by developing tools to link information and track progress, we can really translate results into clear and practical messages and enable proactive decisions, and then optimize the vital role that the program plays in the adaptive management of the Middle Rio Grande. So the database is really just one of these tools. And so to show you how this fits in with Science and Adaptive Management Plan, I think of it as three pieces: the Science and Adaptive Management Plan, the long-term plan, and the database. So the database really informs the long-term plan by organizing the scientific activities used to generate the periodic work plans. So while the long-term plan and the Science and Adaptive Management Plan together, they really work together to set the stage for implementing the science and adaptive management process. So the database specifically can be viewed as a tool to facilitate linking. In addition to scientific activities and responses compiled by program work groups, the database will include information about current and proposed management activities, relationships with river conditions, and predicted outcomes. And so we're really talking about taking the information and pieces seen here and organizing it into a relational database. So the database has many uses. It can be seen as a communication tool to enable dissemination of timely information, a planning tool to summarize projects that were implemented within a given time frame. Sorry, that'd be more the reporting tool would summarize projects that were implemented. And then the planning tool would be more to look at a set of projects in the database, which I'm going to show you in a few minutes how that would work. So all these aspects of the database really help lead to informed decision making. So as database designers, we really view the project table or the project bank as the main focus of the database. And it's just a collection of projects as a list with all the associated information. For example, how a project links to program goals and objectives, how it links to critical uncertainties and project hypotheses. So with the database under development currently, we're really, we have ideas for these hypothetical relationships, but we're also gathering information to see what stakeholders envision for this tool and what features and areas we can build in, right, to really ensure that stakeholders get the information they need in a timely manner and in the format that is useful for them. So again, the project list or project bank is just a list of projects with all the associated information compiled, and it will be fully searchable for users through an application. So the application would be a place to go to see projects that have made it through the planning stage and are ready to be implemented, evaluate a set of projects for potential funding and link to statements of work or see expected timelines, and then see linkages to program goals, species recovery goals, and hypotheses associated with a project if appropriate. So for long-term planning, for instance, we can query the database by types of projects, reach, or authority, and we can foresee queries for cost and duration would be useful for this type of long-term planning. So for projects not yet funded, though, they would stay in the bank and be ready when hydraulic or budget conditions are appropriate and allow implementation. So in this way, the database can help with forecasting or scenario planning. And Catherine often points out that this type of banking can help the program really build resiliency to personnel turnover and changes that are expected in river conditions. So I'm going to jump to another window here and show the database application. So we've created a visualization tool to describe and demonstrate the database and the associated applications that would allow users to interact with the database. Can you guys see the different screen now?
Yes.
Thank you. So I'm going to demonstrate two main areas that the database will be helpful for. One, project planning, and two, project reporting. So what you see here is essentially a project list. As we said, this list is really the backbone of the database. Oops, sorry. Trying to scroll down here. This is an example list that comes from 2018 reporting and is really just for demonstration purposes. So you can see as I scroll down here, there's certain information. I keep doing that, sorry. Certain information shown. And then the feature that I keep accidentally going to is when you click on a row here, you go to the additional information that's stored about that project, which I'll show you in a second. First, I'm going to show you how we can query this list, and we have 5 fields set up here at the top. But we can add or remove or change these queryable fields. And essentially, we're subsetting this list down to, and what I've chosen here is just species, and also I can select these activity types, and again, query this or limit this list down to a smaller set of projects. So only a few fields are displayed, but when I select a given project, I think I heard you guys talking about this, Pink and Omar previously, we can see all the additional information about the project that is stored in the database. And so we envision that, you know, this application would benefit if we had links to say the scope of work here. The database is storing the title of the scope of work, but we could essentially link to documents that are already stored in the program portal, like the scopes of work or reports where appropriate. So again, when we think about, I'll go back to the query, and when we think about selecting a certain set of projects based on attributes for planning, we essentially can view these projects in a summary format, and we can investigate the set of projects broken down according to the sets of attributes that we select. So here we've got 23 projects that were selected, and we can look at the breakdown of focal areas and activities. And then one of the nice features would be to have a download button to, you know, export this list and then feed into other planning documents. Or we can even envision a feasibility, an interface to evaluate feasibility through maybe a tool that accepts users' evaluations and different weighting factors. So that's really a summary of how we envision an interface that will allow for project planning. But we also have a reporting feature where, very similar, you would go in and you would say, query for your area of interest, whether it's a geographic area or projects maybe that a given agency has funded. And then again, you can export them into a report ready table. So the other piece that we don't have a prototype for, but essentially you can imagine a project submission form. It's just a placeholder here, but we could build a data entry feature because really we know the utility of the database is going to depend on folks entering relevant data. So we can envision either a web application or a desktop application that will be quick and easy for managers to open, add info, and update info as available. So that's really a demonstration to help you visualize how the information in the database can be used and how bringing all the information together in one place can really benefit the stakeholders. So let me pop back to my slides here. Let's see, so Catherine put together this list of frequently asked questions about development and hosting. So as we develop this conceptual outline of the database, we'll be refining the tables and fields and relationships and really the constraints needed to make the database as functional as possible and really responsive to the needs of the signatories and the users. So I think of where we are now as a prototype, and then at some point we'll implement the database model on a secure platform such as SQL Server and determine what uses there are for applications such as you saw today in our visualization tool, and also what the best hosting option would be. And then I have one more slide to just highlight the need to get input from folks like you to make sure that we build in functionality that is desired by the users, and to really try to predict what the users will want from the database. And so we really do need to hear from you, and we hope that the process of getting input will really facilitate efficient development of the database and tools. So hopefully there's some good questions popping up, and I can take some time to answer those. But essentially, let the program support team know what you need, or if anybody would like to meet with me, I'd be glad to walk them through the visualization tool again at a little bit slower pace and answer any questions one-on-one.
Sure. So we have a few questions that did pop up. Elizabeth asked about a geospatial map, if the database will include spatial layers like the HINC and OMART. So can you talk about how the database might link to the geospatial mapper, and how the data might be incorporated?
Yeah, so the program already has a spatial mapper built, which I believe I'm talking about tomorrow or the next day as part of the symposium. I'll give a demonstration of that. So there's no plan to recreate that tool at all. There will be information in the database about projects that then get displayed spatially. The silvery minnow data is a great example of that. And so I do believe with an application, we could enable linking to those reports on the program portal, but there won't be a direct link because the database isn't really going to store raw data or collected data. When we think of a science activity, the database, I would encourage you to think about it as like a project list or a project bank that then links to other information. I think hopefully that answered that question.
Mike Marcus is asking, since the program has been funding and coordinating projects for 20+ years, how far back in time is are the projects going to be included in the database? He's interested in making sure we don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, so I would think the answer to that really comes from what we want to get out of the database. And, if we want to start, this year or next year entering projects, then we can basically expect planning and reporting from that time frame going forward. If somebody sees utility in going backwards and entering those projects, again, it wouldn't be entering data collected as part of those projects, it would be entering data about those projects. If someone sees the utility in that, then the functionality is there, but I would hesitate to do it unless we knew what we wanted to get, what use that would have for us in the future. But that's definitely a discussion topic that we can have.
Yeah. And Mike, if you have any thoughts on that, please let us know, and any other people in the program as well. Mickey Porter from the Core asked, are there any other examples of AM databases in the literature?
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure there's other examples of how programs keep track of all their projects. I don't know if they're calling it adaptive management database, but yeah, I'm sure there's programs have other tools to facilitate this type of project lists, both for reporting and planning purposes.
I can also speak on this a little bit, and Catherine, please feel free to jump in too. If we go back to the AM plan version 1 that was developed by SN Headwaters, they actually had a recommendation for building all these linkages. So our solution to that recommendation from them is this database.
Yeah, that's right, Debbie. And believe me, to the entire program, I am regretting the use of the term database in the beginning, but that's just kind of what we called it, and that's stuck. But like Shay said, this is not supposed to include raw data. It's informational, and it's a relational database that links ideas and project information with those guiding principles that we talked about earlier this morning. So like Shay said, you know, other programs obviously have some way of tracking their progress, and that's really, in terms of adaptive management, as an adaptive management tool, that's what this database will do, is it will create a record of decisions and a record of information so that we can track progress and recommendations through time.
And keep your eyes open for more information and more ability to input on how the database will be built and when we start inputting actual